Hello and welcome. I'm Susan Clare and this is my studio in Jamaica. Thanks for joining me this afternoon for Open Studios. And I thought I'd begin just by explaining the motivation behind doing this session this afternoon. About 18 months ago, I found out that I was going to be doing a lovely exhibition at Round Hill Hotel, a solo exhibition, and I really did some soul searching. I think a lot of us creatives, with our distractions with teaching and requirements from other people, maybe don't always prioritise expressing what we really want to say or it gives us the most joy. So that's what I thought about, and I really wanted this to be a celebration of the ocean, as well as raising an awareness of what's happening with that amazing resource and how we're all taking it for granted, and that it may not be there in the way that we hope if we don't start waking up and doing something. So I wanted to inspire people to help the ocean through joy and just sharing my incredible attachment to the ocean. As most of you may know, my first career was in scuba diving, and so I have a real attachment to being by the ocean, in the ocean, or under the ocean. It's all good. And so a lot of these pieces are inspired purely by the ocean and the joy of experiencing it and being by it. So I hope you're going to enjoy this collection. The updated version, I should have mentioned that 2 days before the exhibition was due to show last year in March, of course we went down into lockdown. And so most of the exhibition has only been shown via one little video clip that I did of it this time last year. So because it was the anniversary of that, it reminded me that maybe it's time to show everyone what some of the amazing pieces were and ways that you can interact with them, purchase them, and maybe buy prints of them if it's not so easy to get originals from Jamaica. I have a lot has happened in the past year, and some of the things that have happened is that I've opened a new website with a print gallery. So I wanted to let you know about that and some of the amazing options that are now available in the different print media that I'm offering my work. So first of all, let me introduce you to my view. I'm extremely lucky to have this view from my studio when I'm working. I know it's one of the things that contributed to keeping me sane in the last few months, as well as inspired. Just wanted to share that with you before we go further. In my Rising Tide exhibition, I had 4 pieces which were the mainstay of the collection, and this is one of them called Rocks by the Sea. It's really inspired by the movement of the water, the luminous quality with all the different colours in the Caribbean, and then when you can almost see the reefs in the more shallow water, but not quite, and then the lovely foam as it tosses up over the rocks on the inshore area. I ended up doing quite a collection on pelicans, and some of them have sold already. This one is a medium-sized canvas, 18 by 24, called Pelican Approach. It was a soft, misty day down by the beach when I snapped this picture, and so I wanted it to have that feeling of the bird being one with its environment rather than too much sunny contrast. Here's another of the large pieces, 48 inches wide, and again it's a Pelican Landing this time. This series of paintings arose out of a fabulous day that I spent with a couple of friends on the south coast, where the sand is black, and it has a lot of minerals in it that just has a entirely different quality. It's wilder, it's not kept for the tourists, and you're much more likely to see things like this. Blocky brushwork is what I was trying to get across, the feeling of the bird without too much detail. did a series of mini abstracts around the idea of rock pools and the foam breaking over the rocks in shallow water. So these are mixed media. They're framed, as you can see, under glass, which is where you're getting my reflection. But I love that pristine look of the white against white, the broad mount, and the more abstract feeling to the pieces. So they can be kept as a set or sold individually. There's 4 of them. The outer size of the frame is 12 by 16. There's another couple of pieces that I did in watercolour, and they are a nice pristine white again. The beauty about these 2 pieces is that you can actually hang them vertical or horizontal. It works either way with the way the plants grow. So you can have them one above each other, side by side, or one vertical, one horizontal, any orientation that you like. Here's a large landscape commission that I'm working on at present. Just wanted to show you some of the texture in the surface, as I've been having a huge amount of fun creating all of this. Adds another whole dimension to the work. Here's another of my Pelican pieces inspired by that afternoon on the south coast. It's another of the large landscape pieces, 48 inches wide. This is called Young Almonds. At Round Hill there's a walk along the side of the ocean which takes you to the spa, and there are rough waves there which tumble and roll over some gorgeous white pebbles, sort of the size of your fist, and they make the most amazing rumbling sound with the surf going over them. So this was inspired by that spot. So here's some of my watery collection. Another piece from Round Hill. This one is called Round Hill Rocks. And this one was quite a departure from my normal painting because I incorporated some found materials, natural materials, including burlap bags and coffee grounds, into the paintwork and gesso. So another whole extra dimension to the sort of 3D feel of the work. That one is 32 inches wide and 26 inches high. A couple of small pieces. This one I was really loved doing. Again, it's slightly more sort of semi-abstract as opposed to total realism. Focusing on the bands of colour in the ocean and the liveliness of the spray coming up on the rocks. It's a little mini version of Flint Cove. This painting of the boat has an interesting story which you can read on my blog, and it's actually a boat in the Isle of Man. Another painting of Flint Cove, semi-abstract again, focusing on the lovely light that you get that reflects up through the water from the sand when you have a nice sand patch. This piece is called Parrotfish, and there's a lot of blocky brushwork in this. It was actually done for a demo. This is one of the things I do at the moment during lockdown, particularly doing live talks and live paintings, telling the story of some of these amazing fish and their environmental importance while I'm painting the picture. And I've been doing that for art groups and clubs in the UK. Ask me about that if you'd like to have a talk done for your group or for a Rotary group or that kind of a scenario. These two also parrotfish, stoplight parrotfish, female red one. And this is the lionfish. And of course the interaction or the balance of the numbers of these two species is critical to the health of the reefs in the Caribbean. And that's actually one of the main focuses of my talks. Encouraging people, if they have a choice, to eat lions and not parrots, because it will help the reefs. There's another calm seascape from my imagination. Again, it includes some found objects and fibres from coffee bags. This piece is one of my favourites because it's an underwater, truly underwater one. Again, it has some very interesting texture in it. So although it's about the sort of semi-abstract nature of the work and the colours and the textures that you find in the reef, it's also a bit of a statement about coral bleaching. And I wanted to get the feeling of being way under the water and looking up towards the surface, the way the light breaks through. I've always painted portraits as part of my repertoire, and so this year I did a series of Caribbean faces, not as commissioned portraits, but just enjoying the character, bringing the characters through with this lovely blocky brushwork in acrylics. These are the remaining few from the collection that I created. So my studio is quite spacious and has some lovely light, even though I am a clutterbug, and gives me a chance to have a look at some of the work I've enjoyed creating at the same time as working. This is a piece that I created during this year, well into lockdown, from a photo that an old friend of mine took in Sherwood Forest. So it's an ancient oak tree, and I really loved working with these rich colours in this blocky fashion. So I promised to introduce you to some of the new print media that are available on my new site. It's a print gallery website called susanclarefineart.com. And some of these media, I would have sort of not quite known what they were. Maybe you know all about them already, but let me share them with you and just how amazing some of them are. So let's start off with the metal print. This is printed onto aluminium. It's slim, it's sleek, it doesn't need framing, although it can be framed. It has its own hanging system on the back there. When they produce these, they're so thoughtful. They put all these little bumpers on to save any damage on your walls. I just absolutely love this. This is a satin finish on the metal surface. And this image, called Sunrise Flight, is a British estuary painting that I did for a friend who was emigrating to New Zealand. And so I'm really delighted that the print version of it is coming out so well, and it looks really great on this metal surface. It really lends itself to it. So these prints are produced in Texas, quite reasonable with their international shipping rates if you're curious. Here's another print media that I wouldn't have thought about ordering for myself at all. And this is the glossy photo paper print. Now this has a really modern contemporary look when you pair it by mounting it on gatorboard, and it has its own integrated hanger system there, and again the lovely little soft pads to stop any rubbing on your wallpaper or your paintwork in your home or office or meeting space. These can also be wiped over with a soft cloth and kept clean really easily, but I just love the way that shine enhances the richness of the image. This image is called Feather Duster Worm. It's one of the little creatures that's in the underwater world that I used to love interacting with on shallow dives. Media that I wouldn't have thought of buying for myself until I saw how gorgeous these are. There's the acrylic print. They call it an acrylic print, which is not to be confused with acrylic paint in an original. So this means that it's printed on the back of a block of acrylic glass, if you like. It's acrylic instead of glass. And this one is 1/8 of an inch thick. You can also get it 1/4 inch thick, and it has its own hanging system, again integrated. This image, my yellow octopus, is one of several that I put into a calendar this year, and I think these would look so great as a collection if you had several of them hanging up together. Is the wood block. Now I've chosen to offer my woodblock prints with a white base behind them because I want to keep those lovely bright colours. So you will get some of the sense of the wood coming through, but it's not going to dull down the colours as if it were printed straight onto the woodblock, which is an option for some people. Here you can see it from the side, and again a hanging system integrated on the back. And again, it doesn't need, it can be hung on the wall just like that, doesn't need to be framed, although you can add a frame if you like that. This image is called Pelican Bar, and it was one of the winning pieces of mine that I entered through the SAA Artists for Gear competition, and it won the professional section of the marine and seascape categories called classic or normal. Here you've got a paper print with a 2-inch mat or mount and a gator board backing so that it can be easily framed, and this will be need to framed under glass. The reproduction is absolutely astonishing. I'm so impressed with it. The colours, even it looks as if the texture of the paint is there. Is a gallery wrapped canvas. And again, if I didn't know that this was the original of this painting was much larger, I might be tempted to think that the brushwork was actually on the surface here because it's so true to the original representation. This is a 1.5-inch side. They even, again, go to the trouble of giving you the little soft felt tabs and hanging the wire on the inside of the frame, which means that you can be sure of not damaging your wall with any of the hardware. Incidentally, they all come packaged incredibly well as well. So they were, although I've imported them to Jamaica from Texas, and they all arrived with no problems because they were so beautifully packaged. All of these new print media are available on my susanclarefinearts.com site, and even some of the images that you've seen in the Rising Tide collection will be available as prints on those type of media. Don't be misled by the sizes I've shown you. These are small ones that I imported as my samples, so I'm not actually selling these ones, these physically. You would need to go to the link and design your own, because you can choose from about 10 different sizes in each image and the type of backing that you want for your own requirements. I'll be showing the link for that in the chat session for our Open Studios today, so please have fun with it. And I'm going to be sharing a special discount code just for the people that showed up today.